the face, the only face, the real face of women's basketball, period. She did it again, Caitlin Clark, shattering records, creating new viewership records for USA Sports. She did it again. Y'all keep running around trying to pretend like this person's the face of the league, that person's the face of the league because they've been here for...
Let me ask you something real quick. When was the last time a single athlete made an entire sports league shake in absolute terror? Not a team, not a union, not a billionaire owner. One single player. Because right now, as you're watching this video, the executive boardrooms inside WNBA headquarters are in complete and total meltdown. League officials are scrambling. Sponsors are firing off emergency phone calls. Network producers who already sold millions of dollars in primetime advertising slots are in full-blown panic mode. And it all traces back to one cold-blooded, ruthless ultimatum delivered by Caitlin Clark herself. Fresh off breaking yet another historic record and claiming Player of the Week honors, Clark didn't pop champagne or post a celebration on social media. She turned directly toward league brass and dropped words that will echo through sports history forever. Bring Sophie Cunningham back, remove the ban immediately, or watch everything you've built collapse in real time. Here at Clark Spotlight, we don't sugarcoat what's happening in this league. We tell you exactly what's going on, who's responsible, and why it matters to every single fan watching right now. So before you scroll anywhere else, drop a comment right now. Do you think Caitlin Clark just made the greatest power move in modern sports history? Or did the league bring this disaster entirely on themselves? Tell me below, because this conversation is about to get very real, very fast.
Corruption.
Just proud of our group, and obviously a lot of people stepped up in AB's absence, and obviously KK, was incredible tonight too.
You said you could tell before the game started. Was there a moment or point in time where that happened? Did a specific thing happen? How did that feeling come for you?
I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like you just have to believe you're going to have those type of nights, and you have to visualize having those type of nights, and I feel like that's what I did. And it's not always going to go your way. Sometimes there's going to be a stretch where the ball's not going through the rim, and you can't get discouraged. And I know all the time and the work that I've put in, and people believe in me, and more than anything I believe in myself. And you just got to dig your feet in a little bit, and when it's not going your way, nobody cares. And find a way to make it better, and find a way to help your team win and make this team better. And I feel like that's what I always try to do.
One or two tied up. You're kind of scrambling a little bit as the shot clock's kind of falling down. They got a deflection, circled back towards half court and kind of went up. Can you take us through that? I think that was your 41st point to kind of go ahead that whole play.
Yeah, obviously we had the ball with the game tied, and they kind of blew up our ATO. They played good defense and, got a good tip on the ball, and I was able to chase it down and then get the deflection, which I don't know if I got her on the arm or if it was clean, but I'm not sure the ref was in a position to make the call. I think it was pretty clean. I don't know, but just tried to make a good play on the ball, and then obviously coming back down, I was trying to get the ref to inbound it faster. I wanted to play fast.
To understand why this entire situation exploded into a full-scale crisis, you have to go back to the moment the league made its single most catastrophic mistake of the entire season. Sophie Cunningham is not just another player filling a roster spot. She's one of the most authentic, genuinely beloved personalities in modern women's basketball. She plays with a nastiness and competitive fire that fans absolutely gravitate toward. She doesn't perform for the cameras. She doesn't craft a PR image. She just plays, talks, and competes with raw, unfiltered energy, and millions of people love her for exactly that. So when the WNBA Players Association quietly moved to restrict licensees from using Sophie Cunningham's name and likeness, in connection with what they called a derogatory moment, the public reaction was immediate, loud, and absolutely furious. Here's the context that makes this ban so deeply infuriating to real fans. The moment in question was arguably the single most viral clip the league produced all season. It wasn't a cheap shot. It wasn't a dirty play. It was Sophie being Sophie, raw, energetic, and completely genuine, which is exactly what women's basketball needs more of, not less. And instead of capitalizing on that organic, priceless viral moment to market the sport to new audiences, league administrators decided to bury it under a mountain of political correctness and internal complaints. Sports business veteran Darren Rovell, someone with more than 50 years of experience watching how leagues and unions operate, pointed out directly that leagues have long maintained rules against what they classify as derogatory nil usage. He referenced the NBA's own history with similar situations, including the infamous Reggie Miller incident, where a gesture that caused controversy was ultimately restricted from licensing use. But here's the key difference that separates those situations from what happened to Cunningham. The Miller moment wasn't the single most popular viral clip of an entire league season. Cunningham's was. What made the ban even more tone-deaf was the timing. The WNBA is in a critical period of its growth story. Viewership is climbing. New fans are entering the space. And the one authentic, personality-driven moment that was pulling casual viewers into the conversation got strangled by a backroom administrative decision that the majority of fans never even got to vote on. The public outrage was instant. Social media forums, comment sections, and sports talk platforms lit up with fans demanding answers, and the league offered almost nothing in response. But the biggest mistake they made wasn't silencing Cunningham. It was assuming Caitlin Clark would stay quiet about it.
For more than 50 years of sports business, Darren Rovell is telling the truth. Leagues and unions have been long forbidden using derogatory NIL. The most popular NBA student example of this is the Reggie Miller choke and crotch grab. There she is, Helen of Troy. There she is, Helen of Troy, Sophie Cunningham herself. They generally do not know how to run a marketing campaign. Folks, when I first saw this, I was like, dude, who is this troll? Who is this troll? But then I looked at the source and I was like, oh, this is a real source. This isn't some Joe Schmo. This is...
Clark didn't send a carefully worded press release. She didn't let a public relations team soften the message into something palatable for corporate consumption. She stepped directly into the spotlight, looked straight at the gatekeepers, and made her position absolutely unmistakable. Bring Sophie back, remove the ban, fix this, now. Every word carried the full weight of her platform behind it. And her platform, at this point in the season, is not a small thing. This is a player who is single-handedly responsible for the most-watched games in the history of the league's broadcast partnerships. This is someone whose name on a marquee is worth more to network advertisers than any marketing campaign the league has ever designed internally. When Caitlin Clark speaks, the numbers behind her voice are staggering. What made the ultimatum so stunning to league insiders wasn't just that she said it. It was how she framed it. Clark didn't position this as a personal grievance or a contract dispute. She framed it as a defense of authenticity, a stand against the administrative culture of silencing players who bring genuine energy to the game. She openly called out the gatekeepers for sabotaging their own platform, which is a level of public accountability that most athletes, even superstar-level ones, never dare to attempt while they're still actively playing. The reason athletes historically stay quiet when leagues make bad decisions is simple. Fear. Fear of fines, suspensions, reduced playing time, or being quietly blacklisted from future opportunities. The corporate structure of professional sports has spent decades making athletes believe that speaking up comes with consequences too painful to risk. Clark just shattered that fear publicly, in real time, in front of millions of witnesses. She essentially told the entire league structure that the old power dynamic is finished. The idea that administrators hold all the cards and athletes must simply accept whatever decisions come down from above? Done. Over. Because when your most valuable asset decides she's willing to walk away unless justice is served, you have no leverage left whatsoever. None. Sports analysts watching this unfold described the moment as something they'd genuinely never seen before in women's sports. One commentator noted directly that Clark's loyalty to Cunningham wasn't performative solidarity for social media points. It was a calculated, clear-eyed business and moral statement delivered by someone who understands exactly how much power she holds. And the league is only now beginning to realize how badly they miscalculated.
Lady right here, Sophie Cunningham. So that takes us back to Darren Rovell. The WNBA Players Association is currently prohibiting licensees from using the Sophie Cunningham point, saying that it is, quote, derogatory. What? What? That is absurd. And if I was Sophie Cunningham, I would be kicking and screaming. What? I saw this and was like, oh, this league is ate up with the perpetually offended. The most viral moment of the year can't get licenses because you got players that were offended by it. Remember all the people online? Oh, that's so disrespectful to black women.
Here's where the panic at the executive level becomes genuinely impossible to overstate. When Caitlin Clark takes the floor, broadcast numbers do something that no marketing strategy, no league expansion plan, and no multi-million-dollar promotional campaign has been able to replicate. They skyrocket, consistently, reliably, night after night. The 3 highest-rated games on USA Network this entire season share one common denominator: the Indiana Fever. More specifically, Caitlin Clark, Fever versus Sparks, Fever versus Tempo, Fever versus Sparks again. 3 of the top 3 slots, all featuring the same player, all drawing well over 1.4 million dedicated viewers tuning in specifically to watch number 22 operate. Compare that to what happens when Clark isn't in the picture. Those numbers don't just dip, they collapse. Broadcast metrics that network producers had started building entire advertising strategies around simply vanish, and the sponsors who signed multi-season contracts based on projected viewership growth are left staring at a very uncomfortable reality. Now factor in Clark's ultimatum, and you start to understand why corporate attorneys across multiple organizations are working overtime right now. Network producers who already pre-sold primetime advertising inventory are sitting in meetings trying to explain to global brand partners why their marquee talent is publicly threatening a work stoppage over an administrative decision the league made without apparently considering the consequences for a single second. Those are not easy conversations. Brand partners don't negotiate with pride or tradition. They negotiate with audience numbers and return on investment. The Fever Sparks matchup drawing numbers that entire league-wide game slates couldn't touch tells the complete story in pure financial language. One player on one team in a specific set of matchups is generating broadcast revenue that props up the entire enterprise. That's not a healthy league ecosystem. That's total dependency. And the league's administrative leadership created this situation by refusing to develop genuine stars organically, while simultaneously undercutting the one star who broke through anyway. Behind locked doors, the accounts are being run right now. What does a Clark absence cost per broadcast? What does it cost in season-long sponsorship or calculations? What does it cost in long-term brand trust if global partners feel like they invested in a product that self-destructed over backroom politics? Every single number that comes back from those calculations points in the same direction. The league cannot afford to lose this fight, not even close. For decades, the unspoken rule inside professional sports locker rooms was simple and brutally enforced. You keep your head down, you play your game, you let the suits upstairs handle the business decisions, even when those decisions are wrong, even when they hurt people you respect, even when they're transparently motivated by politics rather than merit. That culture of silence didn't exist because athletes are weak or passive. It existed because the power imbalance was real and the consequences for speaking up were painful. Fines, reduced opportunities, quiet blacklisting, and reputational damage were all tools that administrative structures used to keep players in line for generations. Caitlin Clark just dismantled that entire system in a single public statement. And across every facility, every practice court, and every locker room in the league right now, players are watching what's unfolding with a combination of awe and something that looks very much like relief. Because here's what Clark's stand actually communicated to every other athlete in the league, not just the ones at the top of the pay scale, but everyone grinding on the edges of roster spots and fighting for recognition in a system that rarely rewards them fairly. It communicated that the moment a player with true drawing power decides to use that power in defense of someone being treated unjustly, the entire administrative machine is suddenly exposed as far more fragile than anyone realized. Several commentators covering the league have noted that the dynamic between Caitlin Clark and her teammates has always been built on something more than just basketball chemistry. There's a genuine mutual respect that goes beyond what usually develops in professional sports environments, where competition for minutes and attention is fierce. Clark has never positioned herself as separate from or above the group. She plays, competes, and advocates as someone who genuinely believes in the people around her. Her public defense of Sophie Cunningham is entirely consistent with that character. This isn't someone performing solidarity for public approval. This is someone who looked at an unjust situation and decided that staying quiet wasn't something her integrity would allow. The ripple effect of that choice extends far beyond this season, this situation, or even this league. Athletes across professional sports are watching a new model take shape in real time. One where genuine star power, when used with purpose and conviction, creates accountability that no administrative structure can simply absorb and ignore. The locker room culture in women's basketball will not return to what it was before this moment. Within hours of Clark's ultimatum becoming public knowledge, the reaction across every major digital platform was nothing short of overwhelming. Fan communities that had already been simmering with frustration over the Cunningham ban transformed almost instantly into organized, focused forces demanding direct accountability from the league. Comment sections under official WNBA social media posts were flooded with messages that made the public sentiment crystal clear. Hashtags demanding Sophie's reinstatement began trending across multiple platforms simultaneously. And viewership blackout campaigns, where fans pledged to turn off games entirely unless the ban was reversed, started gaining serious traction with remarkable speed. This wasn't the typical scattered online noise that organizations have learned to wait out. This had direction, purpose, and a specific demand attached to it, and it was growing every hour rather than fading. The reason the digital response hit so fast and so hard comes down to something the league's administrative leadership has consistently failed to understand about its current audience. The fans who drove the viewership explosion surrounding Caitlin Clark's arrival in the league are not passive consumers who will accept whatever they're given. They're deeply engaged, vocal, and fully capable of organizing around a cause when they feel genuinely wronged. Analysts who study sports media consumption patterns have pointed out something fascinating about the demographic that Clark specifically brought into the WNBA's audience. A significant portion of them came in specifically because of authenticity. They followed Clark from her college days at Iowa because what they saw felt real, felt honest, and felt worth investing in emotionally. Sophie Cunningham fits that same authenticity profile perfectly. She doesn't perform. She competes, and she expresses herself without calculating how it'll land on a corporate level. So, when the league moved to suppress exactly that kind of authentic expression, it didn't just alienate Cunningham's existing fan base. It directly threatened the trust of every Clark fan who valued authenticity above all else. Sports commentators across platforms who had spent months trying to push back against the narrative of Clark as the league's singular cultural force were suddenly very quiet. The digital numbers don't lie, and those numbers were telling a story that no amount of carefully managed press could rewrite. The social media war isn't winding down. If anything, it's entering a new phase, one where the pressure on league officials to respond publicly and meaningfully is only intensifying with every passing day. Here's something that doesn't make the sports headlines as often as it should, but sits at the absolute center of every decision made at the league executive level. Brand partners don't care about tradition. They don't care about internal politics. They don't care which administrator has been at the organization the longest or which faction of the players' union holds the most internal influence. They care about one thing exclusively: return on investment. And right now, several of the WNBA's most significant brand partners are conducting some very uncomfortable internal reviews of their current agreements. When a league's top draw publicly signals that she is willing to walk away over a policy dispute, the calculation for every sponsor attached to that league changes immediately. It's not emotional, it's mathematical. If Caitlin Clark reduces her involvement, either through a full boycott, reduced engagement, or simply the kind of distracted, disruptive season that follows a public war with league leadership, the viewership numbers that those brand contracts were built on disappear. Corporate attorneys at several major brand partners are reportedly reviewing what their agreements actually cover in terms of viewership guarantees and broadcast performance expectations. Multi-million-dollar deals structured around projected audience metrics suddenly look a lot more fragile when the primary driver of those metrics is in open conflict with league management. The league's sponsors represent a wildly diverse group of corporations, ranging from financial institutions to lifestyle brands, all of whom made their WNBA investments based on the story of a league experiencing historic growth. That growth story has Caitlin Clark's name written all over every chapter. Remove Clark from the equation, even partially, and the growth narrative collapses. What makes this even more damaging for league officials is the timing. This isn't the off-season, where a dispute can be quietly managed before the next broadcast cycle begins. This is happening in real time, during active games, with live advertising inventory already sold and committed. There is no clean exit from this situation for the administrators who allowed it to develop. Behind closed doors, the pressure being applied by brand partners right now is described by people familiar with the conversations as intense, direct, and escalating. The message from corporate partners isn't subtle. Fix this situation immediately, or the financial relationship between the league and its sponsor community faces a fundamental restructuring that nobody on the administrative side is prepared to survive. That's not a threat. That's a business reality landing directly on the desks of the people who made this mess. Here's something that got buried under the avalanche of controversy surrounding the ban, and it deserves far more attention than it's been getting. Sophie Cunningham is not just a personality. She's a genuinely elite basketball player, operating at a level that the league's own statistics confirm clearly, whether the administrative suits want to acknowledge it or not. Pull up the three-point shooting numbers for the entire WNBA right now, and what you find is striking. Cunningham is sitting at 43% from beyond the arc, which places her among the very best long-range shooters in the entire league. For context, that number puts her ahead of players who receive significantly more promotional attention, significantly more broadcast focus, and significantly more institutional support from league marketing departments. Aaliyah Boston is sitting at 46%, which makes her the technical leader among the league's top perimeter shooters. Kelsey Mitchell checks in at 42%. And Caitlin Clark, despite playing under a minute's restriction and still managing to claim Player of the Week honors, rounds out a four-player group that represents the absolute cream of three-point shooting in the W right now. Sophie Cunningham belongs in that conversation. The statistics put her there. Her on-court performance keeps her there. And yet the league's administrative decisions seem to operate in a completely parallel universe where those numbers don't factor into how players are promoted, protected, or treated. The three-point contest conversation that's been circulating in basketball communities online makes this contradiction even harder to defend. Fans who did the research and looked at the shooting percentages came away genuinely shocked at what they found. Here is a player sitting at 43% from deep, delivering consistent elite-level production. And instead of being celebrated for it, she became the subject of a licensing ban that suppressed the most viral moment of her season. The commentators who covered the three-point contest discussion were blunt about it. The contest was likely going to be less compelling than it could have been precisely because the decisions being made about who gets featured and who gets sidelined aren't being driven by merit. They're being driven by something else entirely, and the fans watching at home are smart enough to see it. Cunningham deserves better. The statistics demand it. The fan response confirms it. And Caitlin Clark, standing publicly in her corner, is making sure the entire sports world hears that message loud and clearly. While the political chaos was consuming the league's executive floors and dominating sports media coverage, Caitlin Clark was doing what she does every single time she steps between the lines. She was making history. Claiming Player of the Week honors isn't a routine achievement, but the specific circumstances under which Clark earned this particular recognition made it genuinely remarkable. She wasn't playing at full throttle. She was operating under a minute's restriction, which for those unfamiliar means the team's coaching staff was deliberately limiting her court time for load management purposes. She was not playing her full game. She was playing a portion of it. And she's still one Player of the Week. Let that land for a second. Restricted minutes, controlled usage. And she still produced at a level high enough that the Associated Press looked across every player in the league and said she was the most outstanding performer of the week. That's not just impressive. That's a statement about the gap between Clark's ceiling and what the rest of the league is currently offering. Her performance in specific games during this stretch added an entirely different layer to the story. In one particularly memorable sequence, with the game tied and the shot clock draining towards zero, Clark tracked down a deflection near half court, applied pressure on the ball, and converted a play that gave her team the lead at a moment when the game was hanging completely in the balance. 41 points in that game, on minutes restriction. When asked about her process after the performance, Clark's answer was direct and unfiltered in a way that feels completely consistent with why fans connect to her so deeply. She talked about visualization, about believing before the game starts that the night is going to be special, about the discipline to stay locked in during stretches where nothing is falling, because the work doesn't disappear just because the results temporarily do. She talked about digging in when nobody cares about your excuses, finding a way to help your team win regardless of circumstances. That mindset, combined with statistical production that leaves broadcast analysts running out of superlatives, is exactly what makes the league's treatment of Clark's ally so baffling to anyone watching from the outside. The greatest player the league has ever seen is breaking records under restrictions while fighting for the rights of someone the league tried to silence. And the whole world is watching every single second of it. Here's the part that every league executive needs to sit with quietly tonight. This isn't a story that ends when the ban gets reversed or a press release gets drafted. What Caitlin Clark triggered with this ultimatum is a permanent realignment of power inside professional women's sports. The old model, where administrators controlled the narrative, athletes stayed quiet, and corporate decisions went unchallenged, is finished. Done. It ended the moment Clark decided her platform was worth more than her silence. Sophie Cunningham is one piece of a much larger story unfolding right now. A story about who actually holds power in modern sports media, whether it's the executives behind the closed doors or the athletes whose names fill the stadiums and screens. Clark answered that question for everyone paying attention. True generational talent cannot be managed by a committee. It cannot be boxed in by administrative pride, and it absolutely cannot be silenced when it decides to speak. The league will make its decision. Sponsors will apply their pressure. Fans will watch and react in real time, but the shift that happened this week cannot be undone. Here at Clark Spotlight, we'll be right here covering every move as it unfolds. Don't go anywhere.